Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Chatbox breakfast show. It's only gone and become Thursday, the 17th of November. I thought the year was flying by, but it's whoosh suddenly because it's starting to feel a bit like winter now. Right? It's a bit bleak out there, and I'm not just talking about the weather. Winter is coming, I'm told. How are you doing, my friend?
Very well, very well. Mustn't complain, as you say. We're getting towards the end of the year in that mode of kind of thinking and planning what 2023 looks like. Not that I'm trying to whiz past 2022. It's actually been not a bad year at all. I think most will say it's had its challenges. Today, we're going to probably face a few more challenges. We're going to talk more about it very shortly. But yes, it's the autumn statement coming today. I wonder what's in store for us as business owners, because obviously this is a business related show, but also, how it's going to hit us personally in the back pocket as well. We'll talk more about that very, very shortly. But overall, yeah, a great year and hoping for a good send off to the end of the year as well. But planning for 2023 already.
Excellent. I know you kind of us business owners, right? We look ahead, constantly look ahead. What's coming? What can we do about it? What's new? Very excited on today's show. We have two behemoths in their field to talk about digital presence. All right, and I think I'm probably fairly late to the digital party because I'm kind of hanging on to human-centric communication, only to realize actually human-centric communication means digital as well, right? So I can no longer be accused of being a Luddite, right? Because like our guests, I can see where human fits in the digital world. So much to talk about, which is brilliant. Very excited about it, and very excited, ladies and gents, for you to get involved. As always, the show's about you. So feel free to, in whatever platform you're on, and we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, just jump on the chat, say hello, let us know how things are going. We'll happily give you a shout out, get involved in the conversations, and feel free to ask our guests anything, ask David anything, and if there's something that might fit my remit, ask me too.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a nickname, Nick, and it's really apparent for today's show. When we started kicking off, change them glasses. They look much nicer than ones.
That's better. I can see what's going on now.
But when we started doing Chatbox, quite a few, 20 months ago, probably something like that now, we got ourselves a nickname, and it was Digital Dave. And what was your nickname, Nick?
Analog Ant.
Analog Ant. So I thought it was really good to just bring that back up today, because why we work so well together, because we have difference of opinions on certain things, but we agree on majority of things. But digital and real world and communication have to come hand in hand today, and that's really what today's show does bring to the surface. It brings all sides, the traditional way of communication, inclusive of digital communication. So we're going to find out more about that. As you say, we've got two great guests coming on, talking more about tech, talking more about digital presence and how to utilize that to make your business more successful, how to open new opportunities, how to possibly, I'm going to use the words very loosely here because, Nick, you might come in from a different angle, but how possibly to communicate better as well, maybe mixing everything together. So it's going to be great.
I love the idea, right? I love the idea that communication is enhanced and better, right? Because we've got so many methods to do it, maybe do it more effectively and efficiently. I have some concerns about digital only communication, but I'm sure it's not just digital only communication. So brilliant. We're going to dig deep. I think before we start with our guests, should we just very, very lightly touch on what might be going on in our world? Is there anything that we need to know about in the papers?
Yeah, so each week I do scan what's on the headlines and pick out a few stories. We know it's not good reading at the moment. Well, it depends on what side of the table you're sitting on. But let's be honest, it's not particularly good reading. It all seems very negative at the moment. It's very hard to find a good news story. But I've had to pick out just a couple of the headlines here just to kind of put to the surface. D-Day for the UK, Hunt's fair and honest plan to fix the future. Obviously, this is all related to what's going to happen later on today. Hunt aims big cuts and tax rises, repairing Britain's frayed reputation. There's also a story on there about Elon Musk telling everyone to get back into the office at Twitter. That's the ones that are left, by the way, because there's been lots of them just obviously sacked. We'll talk more about that later in the show. Grin and bear it. Hunt prepares budget to start filling 60 billion black hole in our economy. And the final one I've picked up today, supermarkets to ration eggs. Asda and Lidl are the first to limit the number of boxes that you can buy due to bird flu and the war in Ukraine. I do think this war in Ukraine is getting a lot of, it's obviously, it's national, international news, and it's impacting the world in many ways. But it's talking about eggs. I don't say I pick up my eggs and go, well, where do they come from? They come from Ukraine. I wonder where that impact is. It's a bit like, talking to the government, they're blaming everything on COVID and everything on the war. They're saying the reason we've got inflation that's now soared to 11.1% is due to COVID and the war. But then my question is, why is it that France is at 6.2% inflation level? Spain has just tippled over to 7.1%. And the US, which I know is across the pond, is at 7.7%. So why have we got one of the highest inflation rates in Europe? Why have we got one of the highest inflation rates in the world? So it's an interesting story. That war, COVID has been affecting those countries too, but why are we in a bad position? Here's another thing. We obviously spoke about Liz Truss. I'm on my high horse a little bit here, Nick, but we spoke about Liz Truss in the past. And it was about a month or so ago that we turned around and said, she needs to resign. She needs to go. We had our own opinions and reasons why. And guess what she did that day? She left. So we're going to try and influence the outcome of the budget today. We're going to just tap on a few things there.
Just a word of warning, right? Liz Truss, no longer a fan of the show, all right? I do not think she watches anymore.
Well, no, she just took our guidance and advice. But do you know what? She added to the deficit of the UK debt by double. So the reason we've got a 60 billion debt, because the last time she did a budget, she threw 30 billion of debt onto the UK budget. So thank you, Liz Truss. We're all going to have to repay that today when Mr. Hunt stands up and tells us we're all going to be paying astronomical amounts of tax. Cuts are going to be coming here, there and everywhere. Corporation tax up, VAT possibly, council tax on the rise. It's not going to be for good reading this afternoon. And we'll unpick that certainly on the show next week as well.
I hope they do give a fair and honest approach. Fair and honest. I'll keep those two words in my mind as things progress, because I've not seen a lot of fair and honest in the past. I tell you what.
Look, James, Liz might have stopped watching, but I think Jeremy and Rishi are avid watchers. I agree. They are. Thank you, James.
Big fans of the show at the moment. We will see. We'll see what happens later, whether they tune out. One thing does strike me, right? All of the stuff that goes on in the background, all of the reasons that we, if we wanted to, we could find to say, well, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of this. When COVID hit and we had to pivot our businesses, right? We weren't blaming COVID for long. We were just getting on with it. I don't come across many businesses that say, oh, my business is doing poorly because of this, and this, and this. They're just getting on with it. Right? They're not coming up with a list of excuses if there are issues. They are just working through it, coming up with different solutions, asking different questions, rather than just moaning and groaning and looking backwards and blaming. You can't blame everything else continually. At some point, you've got to take responsibility, right? Every business leader has to take responsibility if things are going well or things are not going well. So at some point, someone's got to take responsibility without blaming everything else. I don't find politicians take responsibility very easily. It doesn't really fit in that I can't make mistakes remit.
Unlike business owners that make many mistakes, and it's part of the journey, it's part of the learning curve. You make a mistake, you learn from it. If you make it twice, well, more for you, that's a bit silly. Make it 3 times, well, that's just stupidity. So, the whole thing about business is that you do make mistakes. You learn. You have great people around you, advisors, whether that's external or internal. You might have your business partner, you work together, you make mistakes together, you learn from it, you push on. Of course, don't forget, by the end of the show, by the way, we're going to talk about Chatbox Champion of the Week as well. We have a new champion this week, so don't detune before 9 o'clock today, because we will be announcing our Chatbox Champion of the Week. Just to finish off on news, Nick, good news story. I know you said you found one, God knows where, but you managed to dig one out. What have you got?
Oh, yeah. You know me, mate. I'm monstrously optimistic. So, of course, I can pick out a good news story. Yusuf, the 11-year-old lad in Leeds, took the Mensa test. He was interested and scored 162, which is the highest Mensa score you can get if you're an 11-year-old. Mum says the family's taken it kind of fairly lightly, but has made a point of reminding Yusuf that his father is still smarter. So all is well with the world, right? When a parent can give a very smart kid the advice saying you may be smart, but your dad's smarter. Nice.
We need to start a campaign. Well done, Yusuf. Firstly, huge congratulations on that. What we need to do is we need to start a campaign. Yusuf for Prime Minister. At least we're going to have some guys with some brains behind it.
Or don't forget, your dad's smarter. All right.
He can have his dad can be the Chancellor of the Exchequer or something like that.
Or every business owner, there's always someone out there that's smarter than you, right? Just get on with your own stuff.
Find them. That's what you need to do. You need to find these great people and adopt them into your team, or surround yourself with them. Actually, we were at a great breakfast meeting yesterday with some friends of the show, actually, that have been on here in the past, and we just meet up for a breakfast and a chat. And I won't call it networking, because we're just there to have great conversation and talk about what's happening in the world, what's happening in business, support each other. It's just good conversation, and we all agreed actually that we want to develop that group and bring on some other bright minds to surround ourselves with great people that have positivity and want to lead the world forwards and do good, not only in their own businesses but in the community and stuff like that. And what a great breakfast and meeting it was. So look forward to the next one.
One of the things I love about the show, right? We get very smart people on the show, right? Who educate us, who are beautifully generous to share their knowledge and experience with our lovely listeners. So listeners, get involved. I'd like to introduce our first guest. I'm very excited. Is that all right? Can we go?
Let's do it. Yes.
Right. Ladies and gents, hold tight. It's going to be awesome. I'd like to invite onto the show Mr. Tim Hughes from DLA Ignite. Come on, Tim.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Very well, my friend. Very well. I'm very excited because
I do think it's sad that Liz is no longer a listener of yours, but I'm sure you'll get over it.
Well, I'm sure she'll come back.
Yeah. She's got plenty of time now on the back benches to...
If she's got any sense, she'll be back in a heartbeat. So, Tim, lots of questions for you, of course.
Yeah.
But before we kick off, whet the appetite of our lovely audience. If you could just say who you are, what is it you do, and why are you on the show around digital presence?
Yes. So I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. We're a business that helps companies transform their salespeople to use digital. So but basically that means social selling. So I'm the author of the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, and there's a second edition just come out, fully updated, and really it's about supporting the salespeople because it's easy to measure, but actually the whole of the business to move to actually using digital.
What do we refer to as social selling? Now, I have a pretty good idea of this, but there might be some people sitting there thinking, well, what is social selling? What does that really mean? Is that just selling on social media? Is that going out and being in social circles? What do you classify as social selling, and how does it operate and work?
Great question. Usually people think that social selling is going onto social and spamming people, and that's not social selling. It's going onto social and spamming people. The problem we have is that traditional sales methods, cold calling, email marketing, advertising are all about interruption. So what people think is I come onto social and interrupt, and it's not that. So if we have a definition, which if you pardon me, I'll read it out. It's using your presence and behavior on social media to build influence, make connections, grow relationships and trust, which lead to conversation and commercial interaction. Now, most people think that social also is maybe coming and posting or something like that. It's not about that. what we're trying to do, what you sell and what I sell and what everybody does in B2B is we need conversations. So it's not just about posting and running, which is what most people do. It's about how am I going to use my presence to actually to have a conversation with people, because conversations create sales.
I've written a few things down. I'm a massive note taker, Tim. Connections, relationships, and trust. I want to ask about trust, but I love the idea that we are creating an environment where we're going to have conversations. Now, I struggle with online in digital generally because I feel as though there's a lack of trust there. Probably because of all the noise, right? For all the reasons you've just said, throwing stuff out there and disappearing, which may or may not be accurate, true, a proper reflection on what's going on with your business or not. So do you feel trust is lacking and needs a lot of work? Or do you feel from your perspective, actually trust comes part and parcel with everything we do?
I think trust is totally lacking. Because, you know, if you think about, put yourself in a buyer situation, from a sales, when they look at salespeople, they go, I don't like you. I don't believe a word you say. I don't trust you. And you're going to try and sell me something I don't want. So as sellers, we have to understand that's what buyers are thinking. And our job is to change that by having a presence on social media that actually shows that we are people that can be trusted, that we are experts in the field. And what we find is that when we train and coach people, there's a transformation takes place from one of, normally when we look at a salesperson, we run away, to actually people walking towards salespeople and saying, I think you can help me. Can you help me? So we have one of our clients, Namos Consulting. They're a 100-person Oracle reseller. And, you know, they recently had a buyer searching on social media. We know that that's the case. The data says that. It's not my opinion. The data shows that people come to social media to search. And they saw someone, said, I think you can help. And they walked towards them. And that turned into a $2.6 million deal. And they've taken another $500,000 out of that business since then. So what you're seeing is that people are actually coming to, you know, this isn't the future. This is now. I mean, I've got CEOs writing in my book that started running a digital organization 2 years ago. So if you're not running a digital organization, you're already 2 years behind. And you know, this is what people are doing right now.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Like, there is an absolute need for businesses to transform into a digital space. Maybe not lose their grassroots, because if they, you know, traditional methods still work, then hey, don't go and cut them off and then just rely on the digital space, because you might find that doesn't work for you as well from the outset. Because as you say, in some cases, people are 2 years behind. They need to play catch up, you know, get onto that bandwagon. But when we talk about social selling, and let's talk about B2B, because I appreciate you might work with some kind of business that's selling to the consumer world, but let's talk about the B2B. What platforms are you looking at here? Because I would automatically say B2B world is going to typically, not always, but be kind of more LinkedIn focused. Of course, we've got all these different social platforms, Facebook, you know, Twitter. We're talking a little bit actually, but TikTok. Nick's now doing some social testing on TikTok to see if it's a space for us as a chat show. But what platforms do you see perform outstrip or are better than others? Because one last thing I will just mention to tag on, with LinkedIn, you talk about spamming. I get, I don't know, 20 connections per day, roughly, of people reaching out to me, wanting to sell to me, to tell me that they can do their marketing better than I can, and you know, they can open doors and opportunities. So I know there's a number of questions in there.
Unpick all those.
I'll try and remember them.
What platforms and the whys, really?
Okay, so the platforms that what we do training and coaching on are LinkedIn and Twitter. But the key thing to understand is that this isn't LinkedIn training. This is you need to understand how to walk digital corridors and have digital conversations. So the networking group that you were talking about earlier on, that's a key skill today, the ability to be able to network, to go to somebody and say, so, you know, have you traveled far? What are you doing? And have questions, because social media is social media. It's not spamming media.
Mm.
And so what you need to be able to do is to start conversations, and one of the best ways to do that is on LinkedIn. Also, another, as I say, if you're selling, certainly in IT, which is my background, you'll find the audience on Twitter. But you need to be able to go wherever your audience is. So if you're trying to sell to somebody on Instagram, you need to be able to go there and start the conversation. So it's not about necessarily understanding the platform. It's about understanding social and actually how you start those conversations. What was the other question? Oh, the spamming one. Well, the great thing about social media, one of the things I went out for dinner last night, and I can't understand why people just don't block people. If people are annoying you, if people are harassing you, then just block them. Tell them to go away. I get loads of people coming to me saying, I run a small business, and they come to me and say, we've got accounting services for a small business. I go, yeah, so I've got an accountant. Why wouldn't I? I go, oh, right. So, well, why are you different? Oh, I don't know. Right. You're not really, you've not really thought this out, have you? Because actually, and what you'll find is that a lot of people are going to market. We've been talking to some solicitors, and they said, we're different because of this. And they said, well, we've done some research. There's 35 solicitors in your area, and 6 of them are going to market saying exactly what you are saying. It's like, and they said, oh, we've just had the website changed. And I said, oh, you've wasted your money there, haven't you? What people don't recognize is that, there's loads of thinking about, this, that's the thing, that's 1990s thinking. What we need to do is we need to understand why we're different. We need to understand how we're going to have conversations, and we need to position ourselves differently. And that's what social is about. How are you going to build that trust? How are you going to get instantaneous trust? How are you going to, I've got on this show using my techniques. I've contacted you. You've looked at me and go, that guy looks interesting. I bet if he comes on, he'll be really interesting. I then have a conversation with Nick. And so this is how you do that. It's about you need to look interesting. You need to look different. Everybody that you probably talk to, you're an expert in what you do. All the people that are watching this are experts in what they do. Does it say that on your LinkedIn profile? I bet it doesn't, because 99.99999% of companies don't know how to social sell, and they're not presenting themselves properly on social.
A few more questions. And yeah, we had a conversation, and when we first started Chatbox, the whole ethos behind it was it's the home of conversation, right? It was during lockdown. We couldn't go and have conversations in the coffee shop. We created an environment where we business leaders, people who know what they're talking about,
and it's an amazing piece of content, Nick and David. This is one of the questions that we ask of people: who is the leading technical and commercial digital influencer in your market or vertical? We're in a situation now in digital where we have a digital twin. Our profile of who we are on digital is basically what people can see. 850 million people on LinkedIn. So they will make and jump to a conclusion about who you are and what you'll like about your profile. So we're moving from the physical world. We're walking the dog. We're feeding the cat, and then we go, right, we're going to go onto LinkedIn. That immediately means that we're in digital, and we're in this situation where it's a bit like the way that when America first started up, and there was a lot of people down the East Coast, and then some people said, we're going to go west. We're going to put our flag in a piece of ground, and we're going to create something. So, and that's where we are. We have a whole bunch of people in the physical world, websites and stuff like that. And what we now have is, through a conduit through social media, is this connection into the digital world. And what companies have the ability, small companies, that you don't need to have a lot of resources to actually stake that ground out and actually say, we are the payroll and personnel experts. We are the whatever. And actually, and you define that market in digital. And that is a massive opportunity, not just for the individual, but for the organization as well. There's a classic David and Goliath, which is something I love as a small business owner, opportunity to take and own that marketplace and anchor that marketplace.
What's your opinion? And I know Nick's got more questions as well, but what's your opinion? It's just something you just said, it triggered in my mind. What's your opinion about interacting. I'm using LinkedIn as a platform here because it's looked at as the business professional platform. As you say, 850 million users on there. And quite often I'll see people saying, you know, I'm sorry I'm posting this, it's personally related. There's a real bit of a stigma around, should I just be talking about business on LinkedIn, or can I bring a little bit of that Facebook kind of element on there where I'm going to talk a little bit about my background, my family, my personal life? Just have interest. What's your opinion? Because at the end of the day, social is about people. It's about conversation. You know, we were talking about the networking yesterday. We sat around a table and we were talking about similar things. We were learning about each other at a personal level, not from a business level. So what's your opinion on that?
Yes. Yeah, the whole point, it's a networking site, and you know what we usually, the question that we ask to salespeople is what's the best way to get to one of the best ways to close business? Well, I get to know my customer. Oh, how do you do that? Well, I take them to the sports, or we go out to dinner. Do you take brochures along to that and talk about business? No, of course not. I find out about their family and the fact that they like fly fishing and that they go to Scotland and okay, right. So to get and close business, what you do is you get to understand the person and who they are and what they're like. Yes. Okay. So why are you just posting brochures then on social media? You know, what we need to do, you know, if I'm going to spend $100,000, $1 million, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out onto social media and look for someone that's going to help me. And that looking isn't just about understanding they have expertise. It's the understanding that they're like me. So what we find, we do an introduction to social media presentation. And one of the things that we do is that we show a particular post where one of my team, it was their son's birthday and they went to the beach and stuff like that, as you would expect. But off the back of that, they got 184 leads. They got 6 C-level meetings. They got 2 proposals and 1 purchase order. Now, this is about, you know, the whole point, what we're talking about is not posting stuff and businessing about. This is about going onto social media and turning it into business. And you will always get more engagement when you put out stuff which is personal, always. And the reason for that is that the data, not my opinion, the data shows that people don't come to social media to read brochures or white papers or the other rubbish that people keep posting. What they do is that they come to social media to be social, just like your networking event. Your networking event is exactly the same as LinkedIn, but in the physical world. I want to get to know somebody. And we've all sat there one day scrolling, going, boring, 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 boring. That looks interesting. What's that? And that's one of the differences, that the way that people search on LinkedIn is actually it's based on discovery rather than search. So it's a bit like you're walking down the high street and you see an alleyway and you go, oh, what's down there? And you go down the alleyway and go, do you know, I've actually always wanted one of those. And you see it in the shop window. So you went out, you didn't search, but you discovered. And that's one of the differences. And if you're not present on social media and you're not doing this, you're invisible and you're missing out on those $2.6 million deals. So I absolutely agree that you need to be personable. Obviously, you need to say what you stand for, but people actually want to know about you and your background. And you'll find the more personal you are, the more people will walk towards you.
And I think we've hit a bit of a dichotomy, right? So if I'm a business, let's say I'm a new business, and I know a friend of mine who's thinking of launching a new business, and his main focus is I've got to be on the first page of Google.
Yep.
Right. And there's a lot of SEO experts out there that proclaim or maybe can get you high up in the search page of Google.
Yep.
Compared to what you're talking about is discovery, creating an environment where conversations are ready to flow because we've started to build a relationship. Now, would I be making a mistake if I threw all of my energy and investment into SEO? Do you think I'm missing half of the options or more? What
I think that
where would I need to come from?
I think you're making a big mistake if you're putting all your eggs into this SEO basket. And the reason for that is that you can get all the SEO benefit you need by being on social. You know, the thing about LinkedIn is that Google loves it because it knows it's full of content. when we go to Google, what we generally don't get is the truth. What we get is something contrived. Go to Google and search on what's the best CRM system in the world. And what you'll get isn't the best CRM system in the world. You'll get Salesforce and Pipe, whatever it is, and whatever buying that search. And you'll get a lot of conjecture, and you'll get a lot of opinion. You won't get any data. Whereas if you come to social and search on that, what you'll find is that people will give you an experience that you're more likely to get that as an answer. So I'm not saying that the SEO or Google is dead. What you're finding is that people are actually searching on both. We all know that if we go to Salesforce's website, it's going to tell you how great Salesforce is. It's not going to tell you how great Microsoft Dynamics is. I go to the Microsoft website and it'll tell me that. It actually doesn't help me. But if you're actually using social, one of the things that we do when we teach and coach people is we teach them how to use keywords. So by putting keywords into your LinkedIn profile, what happens is that you're more likely to be found. The more people that you do that across your organization, is the more keyword optimized content you have. Then, because the way that you engage with people online is by using content. Here's a piece of content. Because you're using content, you use keywords as well. So what you're doing is that you're constantly building up a library of content. We don't do any work around SEO. We've never cold called. We've never placed an advert. We don't have an email list. We don't need to, because everything that we do is social focused, and that provides us the SEO that we need. I get a lot of inbound that comes from Google.
Really interesting, really interesting. The clock is always against us.
Yes, sorry.
I know you mentioned at the beginning, but I do want to just give you an opportunity to talk about your social selling second edition, which we've got a cover of here. And I know you've got the actual book there as well. So
funnily enough, yeah,
there it is. Tell us a little bit about this book. How can people get hold of a copy? I'm going to assume it's in the Amazon store or something like that.
It's on Amazon worldwide. It's available in the UK now. It will ship now in the States. If anyone is up that early, it's on the 29th of November. So I wrote the first one back in 2015, and it came out in 2016. And what I've done is I've basically rewritten it and updated it. I've also gone out to 15 practitioners, so people that are doing this already, and said, right, I want you to write about community. I want you to write about employee advocacy. I want you to write about, you're running a digital business. So Chris Fleming, who's the CEO of Cyberhawk, running a digital business. Tell me why you do that. Tell me what's different and what's the benefit that you're getting. And then I've put that in there. So the first one was 187 pages. This new book is now for 306 pages. So there's a significant growth in terms of the input in that.
Brilliant. Fantastic. I tell you what, the thing that struck me most, Tim, and there's a lot of notes I've taken, I didn't even think about when I'm doing my profile on LinkedIn and posts on LinkedIn, I didn't even give keywords a second thought.
No one ever does.
That was doing Google and stuff.
Yeah, and usually what someone will say is, I want to be famous for digital transformation. You go, okay, get it to Google and search on digital transformation. I think there's 1.6 billion records or something like that. How are you going to stand out? Because Salesforce will buy their way up there. You can't compete with that. Brilliant. So how are you going to? And one of the things that we do as part of the program is actually teach people how to keyword optimize, so they're actually getting the SEO benefit. And that's what you're doing is that we find within the third week people are getting meetings and getting return. We've got one client that's got they're a 300 million turnover organization, and they've got a $500 million opportunity through social.
Wow. Couple of final questions. If people want to find out more, your website is the best place for them to
DLAignite.com, or come and connect to me on LinkedIn. Say that you saw me on the Business Breakfast Show, please come and connect, and love to have a conversation.
Yeah, brilliant. And top business tip. We ask all our guests coming on here, like you've got a book out. Nick is also an author. I am yet to become a published author, but we're on our way to making that happen. Our book is going to be due out in the new year. We're combining all the top tips from all our guests who have come onto the show. So putting you on the spot here, but top business tip, what would it be?
Keep away from toxicity.
Keep away from toxicity. Yeah.
Yes, don't take on people that are toxic, or if you do, get rid of them. Keep toxicity out of your business. I made the mistake, and I tell people every time, keep it away.
Yeah, fine. Brilliant. And finally, just to say a couple of things coming in, really useful tips. Thank you. May be persuaded to overcome social media fear. James has also posted interesting chat and can see how Tim's views fit well with Nick's human-centric perspective. Yeah, absolutely. It's been great having you on here this morning, Tim. Lots of stuff learned. I've certainly taken away a few takeaways as well. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll have to get you back on because there's so much more we can explore.
Always happy to come on. Thank you so much, Nick and David.
Brilliant. We're back straight after this. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thanks. Bye.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. There you go, Nick. You're going to jump on your LinkedIn now and start adding all your keywords in and make it more vibrant.
Good idea. Hey, I thought that was the realm of Google and search engines and stuff like that. And well, of course it is. But why are we not even thinking keywords when we're having our online communication? Yes, love it, mate, love it.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Let's just pick up on a few other bits. We said about today is D-Day with the autumn statement looming later on. We know that businesses are facing soaring costs, rampant inflation, falling revenues, difficult access and affordable finance as well, and the rising invoices being paid late. Lots of organizations, because of money restraints, have been a lot slower on payment terms and stuff like that. I wonder what our audience, our listeners are facing. I wonder what other businesses are seeing. Is what we hear in the media, in the news, true? I am working as well as you are, Nick, and a lot of our guests are in that small bit SME world, so kind of 0 to 250 employees. We're seeing it firsthand. I wear my hat for the Federation of Small Businesses as the regional chair for the East of England. I work within many kind of client environments, and I am seeing it is tough out there. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people are vibrant. Some businesses are doing really well, but with increased energy costs, those overheads, do you think today's going to dampen it even more for businesses? An opinion, just your opinion.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what the audience is struggling with, but I would imagine most businesses. So if you're retail, if you run a pub or a cafe or you've got a shop front, I imagine your issues are slightly different from mine. Who I work with clients. I work from home. I'm working in their premises. I don't have the sorts of obligations, costs, and issues that some of, let's say, a more traditional business has. So I don't think it matters to me realistically what Jeremy Hunt's going to say, me and my business. I'll just get on with it. Right? I might not make as much money, or I might have to do things differently, but I've been in business 20 years. I'll just get on with whatever I need to get on with. But I no doubt the media will push all of the doom and gloom, and what that will do, it will just lower people's kind of optimism about the future, even though they're saying this is to secure our future. We look out of the window and it's always looking gloomy, right? And that's not because of the blooming weather, right? It's so much easier, isn't it? If you get up and you go out and the sun's shining and someone says hello, good morning, and you have a pleasant experience. What a day, right? You attack your day with a lot more kind of vigor. If you go out and it's raining and someone says, oh, bugger off, and it's a miserable experience, then that's a tough day. And I think we've created an environment is being created where every day is a tough day. Yeah. Right? It doesn't need to be like that. Right? We'll just get on with it. Right? Government, do what you like. We'll get on with our stuff amazingly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Right, we're going to take a quick ad break. When we're back, we're going to bring our next guest who's been waiting super patiently backstage onto the show. We're going to find out more about the digital and technology world. We're back straight after this. Thank you very much to the Fuel Podcast and Mr. Keith Smith, one of our US friends of the show as well. You're probably not up, Keith, but if you are, good, very early good morning to you, because it's probably about 3 o'clock in the morning there, something like that. Anyway, moving onwards. Been waiting patiently backstage. Please welcome a friend of the show, been here before, knows what it's all about. Please welcome Vincent McAtamney. Good morning, Vincent.
Good morning. Nice to be back. Lovely to meet you both.
Yeah, great to get you back here. We're going to be talking lots around sort of technology, the metaverse. But for those that may not have seen a previous episode with you here, just give us an update, who you are, what it is that you do, where you're based, all that exciting stuff. Whet everyone's appetite here who's listening with you in this morning.
Okay, so I've got one of the longest names in Southend, Vincent McAtamney. And my company is VINTEC. VINTEC Immersive is its full name. And what we do is we create content, in particular immersive content. So that includes things like virtual reality, mixed reality, interactive content, both content and delivery of experiences as well. Typically we work with brands, sometimes via creative agencies, and we've delivered content to the likes of some of the car brands, Renault, Nissan in particular. We're working with Kia at the moment as well. We did work with McLaren some years ago. That was good fun. TfL, Longcom, L'Oreal. We've created holograms, we've created VR for training as well as for visualizations. And of course, there's this new word that's appeared on the scene, which is metaverse. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today.
And I think before we dig deep into the metaverse, Vincent, I think, if memory serves, you were the first person to put that Ant and Dec badge on David and I. I think that came from you, my friend. I think you named us Ant and Dec. I think.
I wasn't going to go there today. I was going to say how is Australia, but I chose not to. But Nick, you've baited me in.
So I hear someone quipped the idea that the metaverse is just the internet, but in 3D. Right, and I quite liked the sound of that because it made it easier for me to kind of appreciate what that world might potentially look and feel like from a business perspective. But you're immersed in it, so you know what it looks like, where the value is, where we in theory should be heading. And if for someone who has no idea what the metaverse is, other than the internet in 3D, is that a good explanation? Is a good place to start?
It is a good place to start, and in fairness, with the development of wearables, ideally we want a pair of reading glasses that give us an overlay to the real world, mixed reality, start overlaying information. Once we get to that stage, which is very, very close now, Apple are close to releasing theirs. Meta have just released some phenomenal video pass-through glasses. Then really the world that we see around us can be changed, can be altered, can be digitally overlaid, and really everywhere in theory can become either an advertising space, an information point, a touch point for learning, for interacting. This is on the whole good stuff. Yes, there are dangers, as there are with all technologies, but on the whole this is a positive move. It is much, much bigger than the internet in 3D though, because of course we have to mention spatial computing, Web 3.0. These are all big phrases, I know, but this is really about decentralizing the way that the internet currently works. Ownership of just a few very, very wealthy organizations and men in this world that own it. It's really making it available to all via a blockchain where there is accountability, there is ledgers. It really is a minefield, a huge one, which is why our business model has changed somewhat from just delivering quick VR experiences for live events to really more of a consultative model, more of a model like Accenture and PwC might adopt, where they really get in and understand the business, understand their pinch points, and can actually make logical predictions for ways forward for them to proceed.
We talk about the metaverse being kind of the next technology transformation, as you say, decentralizing and stuff like that. Facebook, amongst many technology leaders, were kind of really pushing and leading the way. But the news obviously is that Facebook are having a big dive in profits, and it's not looking too great on their side at the moment. And of course, they've just stripped out 10,000 jobs globally. And now I'm not suggesting all these worked in the metaverse project area, but does that maybe give concerns, do you think, that the metaverse is not going to be as big as what everyone possibly thought it was going to be? Or do you think it's just a blip in the road?
Short answer is no. Let me explain why, though. Mark Zuckerberg, funny character, isn't he? I'm not a fan, if I'm honest, although I understand and like to some extent what he stands for. What Mark Zuckerberg is good at doing is selling papers, grabbing headlines. He is, something of a front man. And yes, Facebook, as companies go, are up there and have billions to invest. I haven't, but yeah, they have got billions to invest. So they invested very heavily, and of course the renaming, the rebranding to Meta was a large part of this, into a futures department. And that futures department, which is where a lot of these jobs were sourced from, some of those were freelance, some of those were for internal relocations, was to develop things like the tools that developers such as I and us can use for businesses like your audience to develop metaverse spaces, things like the Horizons and other platforms that they are developing. Also, of course, they're Meta hardware. So they've just, in the last couple of weeks, released the Meta Quest Pro, which is a very, very high-end business tool, more than a gaming tool as well, far more of a business tool used for VR, for training, for visualizations, all of those sort of serious business applications. And yes, the metaverse was part of that. But of course, many of those things are now already on the market and already released and already seen development. Metaverse isn't something we can stop. It's not something that might or might not happen. It is here. It is happening. Nike have made a massive, massive step forward in Web 3.0 just in this last week, something I was going to talk to you about. So the question is it dead? No. Can we stop it? No. I think what may happen, and your intros today, by the way, have been absolutely on the ball, bang on, the political slants of them, is that I do fear to some extent that we might see a slowing of that trickle-down effect. So yes, Nike can afford a metaverse space. Of course, Google and everyone else can, but when will it find that middle ground and that smaller market that perhaps opens it up to the masses? That may be slowed when purse strings are tight, frankly.
Yeah, I think that there is a feeling around certainly the country around, is it it's probably a bad time to invest in, maybe new staff or new premises or something that's going to cost me a big chunk of money. And I'm sure even small businesses are probably thinking, well, okay, I'm just not going to employ another member of staff at the moment. I'll see how things go. Let's get through the winter first. And I imagine that's the same if a small business is looking at the metaverse going, okay, I'll wait and see. But the big businesses, as you say, they're not holding back, are they? I think they will probably create an environment that the rest of us will follow into. A bit like a big shop opens on a high street, and then it's more comfortable for a few more other shops to turn up because the big shop is the draw. John Lewis opened in Chelmsford, for example. Then a load of other stores appeared around it because that's going to bring people in. And if Nike are going to bring people into the Meta Stadium, then that makes good sense, right?
Something else,
we trip ourselves up.
Something that was very interesting with the Nike, and it's called the Swoosh campaign. I urge anyone to sort of start looking and getting involved in that. It was almost said as a throwaway line, and it stopped me in my tracks. They are predicting, and I'm sure they've got financial analysts that are not just finger in the air kind of stuff. They are predicting by 2024 a 40% additional revenue coming from sales of their virtual products. So just as you might buy a physical pair of, I'm showing my age now, Nike Air Jordans, why not buy a virtual pair as well? And of course, these virtual pairs are going to be designed and developed by everything from gaming companies through to individual guys and girls at home that are using Unity and Unreal Engine and other such development tools to create their own avatars and their own skins and their own products for these, and then put them into a Nike universe and sell them. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's really where the fans are becoming an intrinsic part of the development of the company. And that's a huge, huge financial opportunity. So I don't see Metaverse really as an investment. Well, it is an investment, but I see it as an investment to gain additional revenue, not to change the world we're in, but to bring something additional to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jumping out of the Metaverse just for a moment, and into the real world and what's happening. You've heard Nick and I have been just tapping on, obviously, what's coming later today, the autumn statement and stuff like that. We talked about Facebook, shredding 10,000 jobs, but we're talking big corporates here. Twitter, 7,500 jobs since Elon stepped in and made some adjustments. Here he's sleeping on the sofa, by the way. I read he's sleeping on the sofa at Twitter until he gets everything sorted. But that's his mentality, isn't it? That's what he would do. You can just imagine him doing that. And Amazon also announced 10,000 job cuts as well. Most people probably think Amazon are getting rid of those jobs in the kind of the shopping world experience, but I imagine they're coming across the company, in their AWS departments and stuff like that. However, Kath has put into the chat, pessimism and uncertainty are two of the biggest things that can kill small businesses, even if in reality things don't change that dramatically. Thanks for that, Kath. I thought I'd just get that jumped in there. But from your opinion, Vincent, what do you think today, or what are the issues that we see, possibly in the country, in the world, and go further if you like, that are affecting small to medium-sized enterprises? What do you think they could be?
I'll start with a positive, because I do try and be a positive kind of guy, but there is a lot to fear. I just wanted to sort of rewind on something you were saying in your introduction, and as I was saying it, the word Donald Trump popped into my head. Not a fan, but of course you were speaking about how politicians just simply won't take ownership, won't take blame. They just don't. They never have. They never will. We know that. I mean, don't get me started. There is a case for someone that understands business to run an economy, run a country. I'm not sure that Donald Trump's the man, don't get me wrong, but there is a strong case for that. I was actually quite in favour of Rishi Sunak, the pre-Liz Truss, because the argument was, well, A, he stabbed Boris in the back, and B, he's got all this money. Well, I quite like someone that's got all this money and knows how to manage it, in charge of the purse strings, rather than a pauper, to be frank. So there is a very strong case for someone that understands business, running an economy, and I think that also trickles down to small businesses. Small businesses are one or two individuals. They have great resilience, and I picked up on, I think it was Kath's comment, even if things don't change much, as soon as you let pessimism, as soon as you let negativity, the rot that Tim was speaking about as well, that toxicity into your business, you're doomed. Keep a positive spin on it, and we can and do get through. The pandemic showed that. As for things that are affecting us, for me, we're speaking about my immersive tech business predominantly today, but I do have another business, which is an audio-visual company, which, as you know, SXAV. And the biggest problem we've got there is supply chain. Jobs are just rolling and rolling and rolling, because things that would have been 1 or 2 days delivery, sometimes we've delivered 3 smart homes this year. One of them was for a gentleman in Surrey, very disabled. This smart home, lighting, entry access audio, gates, and some quite heavy automation as well, simply makes his life better, makes his life more easy to live, easy to get around his house. Really proud to be part of that project. We were able to deliver that. If that project had started, I would say 6 months later, we would be looking at a 1 year lead time on Crestron components, which you just can't run a business like that. So we've had to adapt and change and find different suppliers and adapt that way. Of course, even if we manage as small businesses our own finances, and it's getting harder and harder, that doesn't mean to say that either our private clients, if we're B2C, or our business clients are not in a position where they're having to simply cease or postpone projects. So it's tough. I'm going to be watching today with some anticipation and some trepidation, equal measure of both.
Yeah, I think all the optimism in the world. If you can't get the gear that you need to build your products or your solution, then you're in stuck. And you have to be very innovative. If you can't get Crestron and AMX say I've got nothing, or if you, let's say your job is you sell phones and you can't get any phones, then you've got to shift your business, right, quite dramatically. So some of this stuff out of our control. Staying optimistic, quite difficult if those things are going against you. I wanted to pick up on one thing. I'm struggling with this, Vincent, but only because I have investments in the world of crypto, and that's tanked. And everywhere you look, it's just Emperor's New Clothes, right? That there never was anything there anyway. And then you say, well, Nike are creating and expecting big revenue from virtual trainers and stuff, right? And then this Emperor's New Clothes thing goes back in my mind. People are actually going to buy virtual stuff, so not it's to put on an avatar, right? And adults are going to do this. This isn't not a gaming thing. Is this going to happen? Am I going to have to change my view of the world?
So businesses that are looking for their next generation of customers are thinking, are those generation of customers born yet? Yes, they are. They're in their late teens now, and that next generation of customers are also our next generation of financial directors, creative directors, CEOs, startups, etc. And they damn well going to be buying in the metaverse and buying with crypto, and they already are. You and I can't stop that. That is happening, cast iron fact. So yes. As for crypto's tanking, things go up, things go down. We all know that. Of course, with crypto, it's been somewhat tarnished with reputation, corruption, etc., etc. However, when you look at what a decentralized finance, DeFi finance is in relation to what we call fiat, which is the term given to general currencies that are managed by their own governments, or in our case, the Bank of England, where they choose interest rates, they choose value, they choose percentages in order to keep everything afloat. I'm going to be bold here and say one has to question whether that method of money is actually working. It's a big topic and it's one I could talk about for hours, and we've probably got only a few minutes now, but it is a huge topic when you can contrast that with something where there is a finite number and there is digital transactions and ledgers between each and every transaction. You can see how that could actually work, but it is a bit of an all or nothing. Of course, the whole world kind of either needs to adopt it or not. And at the moment, there are people that are making an absolute fortune from it. I don't believe the way to make money from it is by selling JPEGs and NFTs, but it is by making utility NFTs, proper online blockchain contracts, which is what we're talking with car companies about doing just that.
Vincent, I know next week, next Friday, you have a metaverse and crypto business workshop. It's kind of like a pilot that you're putting together. I've been fortunate enough to blag a VIP front row seat. Talk a little bit more about that. And do you have any tickets available if anyone is interested? And if so, how can they find out more and get involved? Or maybe you've got a future one that they can get involved with as well.
Part of it's on the 24th, which is actually Thursday. That's
it's the Thursday, is it? My big pardon, it's the Thursday.
Yeah, David's going to turn up on Friday and wonder where everyone is.
You can turn up Friday if you want, yeah. But yeah, this harks back to something I said earlier about our model has changed, where it is more of a consultative model. And of course, to do that, I'm keen to reach out and understand new businesses. I'm speaking to you from my home in Rochford today. The office is in Leigh-on-Sea, so in this sort of SS postal code area, South End-on-Sea postal code area. Just locally, there are some fantastic businesses. I was speaking to one of the airline providers, IPCO, who make the seats for passenger airplanes. There's some phenomenal businesses in our own region. They've got an interesting story to tell. They've got a very interesting audience, and they've got a plan for growth. So I'm really only interested in those sort of forward thinkers, those trailblazers, and I've been really impressed that within the county of Essex there are a good number of them. So we're going to be getting together for a workshop over the course of 3 hours, which is not enough time to educate everything, but it's enough time to plant some seeds. And we can be doing some live demonstrations. We're actually going to have some headsets, and people are going to create avatars of themselves and appear in a metaverse space and understand how they can interact and transact. They're going to see 3D objects brought into that space that aren't really there and interact with them. We are going to do that conversation that we started 2 minutes ago, the difference between money or fiat money and cryptocurrency, and what the pros and cons are, and how the world is going to be shaped as crypto evolves. As for spaces, it is fully booked. However, if anyone wants to come, direct message me. I'll make it happen. I'm considering taking a larger space. It's being held at Southend United's football stadium. I just thought it'd be a more interesting venue, overlooking the pitch and the executive room. It just seemed like a good location for parking. So I may run another one. Let's see what interest this one gets.
Fantastic. And if people want to find out more about you, website, a good place to start?
Good place to start, absolutely. LinkedIn as well. I am going to be checking all my keywords as well. Tim and I will be speaking after this as well. I also wanted to just pick up on something that Tim said. I really liked, Tim, that phrase you used about discovery, not search. And there's a common ground there between the internet versus the metaverse, because the metaverse is about experiences, not dwell time and surfing. So there's a very similar sort of common ground that perhaps Tim and I should speak about and chew the fat on. That'd be good.
And if you are watching this on audio only, doesn't make sense. If you're listening to this on audio only, the website is vintecimmersive.com. You can go there and find out more about Vincent, his business, and the metaverse and crypto and all that really great stuff as well. Southend sounds great. I look forward to it next week and participating there. Top business tip, Vincent. I know you've given us some in the past, but have you got anything new that you can add to Nick's collection of top tips?
Okay, strive to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and that really importantly involves eating well, looking after yourself. About 18 months ago, I kind of fell victim to the skipping lunch and having a quick McDonald's on the go and all that kind of stuff, and it's not good. Just get up early, walk the dog, kick a ball, do what you need to do, stop for lunch. And that way you can be the very best version of yourself. And frankly, we need to be the best versions of ourselves to get through the next months or beyond.
Yeah, brilliant. Vincent, been a pleasure having you here this morning. We've hit the 9 o'clock marker, so we are going to overrun. So don't disappear. We've still got Champion of the Week coming up after this. Vincent, once again, thank you very much. I look forward to hopefully seeing you next week in the room for more conversations and great conversations. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
There we go, Nick.
Great stuff, mate. Great stuff. Just another joy, right? To be on a show where experts, just people leading their field, are kind enough to share their knowledge and experience and give us a glimmer of, okay, what's coming? What do we need to do? You know, I you know me, I take a lot of notes, and I got some quality notes taken from today's show. So brilliant stuff, and it's not over yet.
Yeah, you do love your notebook taking, Nick. Absolutely. We were out yesterday having some great meetings, and the notebook was there. The pencil or the pen was smoking away as you're taking down lots of notes. It's always good to have a great note taker because you capture all that amazing content in the moment. There you go. Right. Yes, it's that time. Because we're a few minutes over. This is our show. We have a little bit of flexibility, but we can't go without doing this. It's time for this.
This being the accolade that is Chatbox Champion of the Week. It's a fairly new feature. Everybody is after this award. We can only give one per week. My friend, do me the favor and the honor of announcing who is this week's Chatbox Champion of the Week, please. It's Glenys Chatterley from EBN. Oh, what a champion of the week. Hopefully you're watching, Glenys. If not, catch up, because you are this week's Chatbox Champion of the Week, Miss Glenys Chatterley. She's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Glenys. Congratulations on that. I know that will sit firmly on your mantelpiece. We will get a book whistling in the post to you because we've been kindly donated a handful of fantastic books, and we'll find one that we believe is relevant and something you can read, because Glenys is a traveller as well. She's doing a lot of travelling at the moment, jet setting all around the world. So a book to take with you, Glenys, to read will be making its way to you. But congratulations. There we go. So we've had a great show, Nick. In summary, I know you've got the notes there. What's the summary notes this week? I mean, we talked about obviously what's coming this afternoon, but what are the summary notes for this week?
Look out for a fair and honest appraisal of the way forward. Don't be afraid to walk those digital corridors, and those digital corridors are going further than you think and into the metaverse. Bring it all on. I'm excited.
There we go. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We're back next Thursday morning. Do join us. It's been a pleasure having you here this morning. I'm David Bell, as always, joined by Nick Luby. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.